This is Heart of the Guardians, where stories of love, redemption, and destiny remind us that even the smallest act of kindness can change everything. It was a cold evening, the kind that made the air sting your face and your breath turn to fog. In a quiet neighborhood just outside the city, a small diner stood at the corner, its neon sign flickering weakly against the fading light. Inside, a young woman sat alone in a booth by the window. Her name was Claire. Her coat was worn, her hair tucked under a knitted cap, and her eyes, though kind, carried a sadness that seemed older than her years. She pushed her half-eaten sandwich to the side, wrapped the leftover food in a napkin, and slipped it carefully into her bag. The waitress, a woman in her 40s, gave her a curious glance. "You can take it, honey," the waitress said softly. "No shame in that." Claire smiled faintly. "Thank you. It's for someone who needs it more than I do." As she stepped outside into the wind, her boots made soft crunching sounds against the frost-covered pavement. She pulled her coat tighter and began walking down the dim street toward the underpass, where a few homeless families had made shelter for the night. She crouched beside a thin boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, wrapped in a blanket that was more whole than fabric. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, handing him the sandwich. "Eat this, okay? It's still warm." The boy looked up, startled, his eyes wide with hunger and disbelief. "Thank you," he said weakly, clutching the food like it was gold. A woman sitting a few feet away, the boy's mother, murmured a prayer under her breath. "God bless you," she said. Claire smiled, nodded, and walked away. She didn't stay to hear the rest. But someone saw her, a little boy from across the street, sitting in the back seat of a car parked outside a grocery store. His name was Ethan. He was 8 years old, bright-eyed, and curious. His father, Daniel, was busy on his phone, not noticing the world beyond the glass. "Daddy," Ethan said, tugging on his sleeve. "Look." Daniel looked up, distracted. "What is it, buddy?" "That lady," Ethan pointed. "She just gave food to that kid under the bridge." Daniel glanced briefly, saw only a figure in a faded coat walking away, and shrugged. Probably someone helping the homeless. But Ethan didn't look away. He kept his eyes on the woman until she disappeared down the street, her small figure swallowed by the darkness. There was something about her, a gentleness, maybe, or the way she looked at people like they mattered. 2 days later, it snowed. The streets were quieter than usual, blanketed in white. Daniel and Ethan were driving home from Ethan's school Christmas play. The boy still had a bit of glitter on his face from the angel costume. As they stopped at a red light, Ethan suddenly pressed his hands against the car window. "Daddy, it's her," he shouted. Daniel blinked. "Who?" "The lady, the one who gave food to that boy." Daniel looked where his son was pointing. On the sidewalk, the same woman was standing near a trash bin, carefully placing leftover containers of food beside it. She wasn't eating, she was leaving them for others. Her cheeks were red from the cold, and her coat looked even thinner than before. Daniel frowned. "How do you know it's her?" "I remember her face," Ethan said with conviction. "It's her." Something about the boy's certainty made Daniel pause. The light turned green, but he didn't drive. Instead, he pulled over to the side. "Wait here, buddy," he said, stepping out of the car. He crossed the street, the wind biting at his face. "Excuse me," he called out. Claire turned, startled. Her first instinct was to apologize. She often did, even when she hadn't done anything wrong. "Oh, I'm sorry, Daniel raised a hand. No, my son recognized you. He saw you helping someone a few days ago." Claire blinked, unsure what to say. "Oh, that was nothing." "It didn't look like nothing to him," Daniel said gently. "He's been talking about it since." She gave a small, tired smile. "Kids notice things adults don't. You have a good boy." Daniel nodded, then hesitated. There was something fragile about her, something that made him want to ask more. "Do you volunteer somewhere?" She looked down. "Not exactly. I used to, but now, she trailed off, her voice catching slightly. Now I just try to help when I can. Daniel glanced at the bag she carried, old, frayed, but neatly packed. Can I buy you a coffee? It's freezing out here. She shook her head. That's kind, but I'm fine. Before he could insist, she smiled again, that same faint, humble smile, and walked away. When Daniel returned to the car, Ethan looked at him eagerly. Did you talk to her? Yes, Daniel said, still watching her disappear into the snow. Her name's Claire. Is she okay? The boy asked. Daniel didn't know how to answer that. I don't think so, buddy. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the woman with the tired eyes and the kindness that seemed too big for her small, fragile frame. He thought about his wife, Emily, who had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness, how she used to do the same thing, leaving food and blankets for the homeless. Maybe that's why Ethan had recognized her spirit so easily. The next morning, Daniel drove to the diner where he'd first seen Claire. The waitress told him she came by sometimes, always ordered the cheapest thing, always packed what was left. Sweet girl, she said. But I think she's been through a lot. For days, he and Ethan kept an eye out for her. Then, one evening, they found her again, sitting outside the same diner, feeding a stray cat with tiny pieces of bread. Ethan jumped out of the car before Daniel could stop him. Hi, he said brightly. Claire looked up, surprised. Oh, hello again. I told Daddy it was you, the boy said proudly. I was right. She laughed softly, the first real laugh Daniel had heard from her. You have a good memory. Daniel joined them, carrying 2 paper cups. Hot chocolate, he said, handing her one. No excuses this time. She hesitated, then took it, warming her hands around the cup. Thank you. They sat there on the curb, sipping in silence for a while. Then Daniel asked, Can I ask something personal? Claire looked wary but nodded. Why do you do it? Helping strangers, I mean. Even when it looks like you could use help yourself. Her eyes softened. Because once, someone helped me. She took a deep breath, her gaze distant. A few years ago, I had a husband. We were happy, for a while. But after he lost his job, everything fell apart. He started drinking. I left when it got bad. I thought I could make it on my own, but, she smiled sadly. Life doesn't always go the way you plan. One night, when I had nothing, no food, no place to sleep, an old man gave me a blanket and a sandwich. He didn't ask who I was, or what I'd done. He just said, pass it on someday. So I am. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he said softly, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. From that night on, Daniel and Ethan started joining her. Every few days, they'd bring extra food from home, soup, bread, fruit, and help distribute it. Claire taught Ethan how to approach people gently, how to listen, how to treat them with respect. Winter slowly gave way to spring. Claire's cheeks regained color, and her laughter became less rare. Daniel found himself looking forward to those evenings, the warmth of shared purpose, the quiet understanding between them. One night, as they finished handing out the last of the sandwiches, Ethan yawned and leaned against Claire. You're like my mommy, he murmured sleepily. Daniel froze. Claire looked at him, unsure what to say. Daniel cleared his throat. I'm sorry, but Claire shook her head, smiling faintly. It's okay. She must have been wonderful. She was, Daniel said softly. She used to do this too. Help people, just like you. Claire looked down, her eyes shining in the streetlight. Then maybe she's the reason we met. Weeks passed. One evening, as they were cleaning up near the underpass, a car suddenly screeched to a stop. A man stumbled out, disheveled, angry. Claire, he shouted. Daniel instinctively stepped forward. Who are you? The man sneered. Her husband. Claire's face went pale. Mark, please don't. You think you can just leave me and Placent out here? He snarled. You're coming with me. Daniel stood firm. She's not going anywhere with you. The man glared, then shoved Daniel aside. But before he could reach Claire, Ethan stepped between them. Don't touch her, the boy cried. Mark froze, maybe not because of fear, but because for the first time, someone smaller than him stood up to him. Daniel caught his arm. You need to leave, now. Something in Daniel's tone, calm, controlled, but dangerous, made the man back off. He spat on the ground and stormed away. After he was gone, Claire trembled. Daniel gently placed his coat over her shoulders. You're safe now, he whispered. She broke down then, sobbing quietly against his chest. I thought I'd never get away from him. I thought I didn't deserve a second chance. Daniel held her tighter. You do. Everyone does. Months later, the diner owner hired Claire as a waitress. She worked hard, always with that same gentle smile. Ethan would run to her after school, helping her carry trays or counting tips. The customers loved her, and one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel walked into the diner with a small bouquet of wildflowers. Claire looked up, startled. For you, he said simply. She laughed, a little nervously. You didn't have to. I wanted to. He hesitated, then added, Ethan and I were thinking, maybe you could come over for dinner sometime. Not to help anyone this time, just to eat. With us. Her eyes softened. I'd like that. That dinner turned into many dinners. The laughter that had once been lost slowly returned to Daniel's home. And one night, as they sat together watching Ethan build a snowman outside, Daniel reached for her hand. Claire, he said quietly, you walked into our lives carrying leftover food, and somehow, you filled every empty place we had. She blinked, tears glistening in her eyes. I just wanted to help. You did, he said, smiling. More than you'll ever know. Ethan ran up to them then, cheeks red from the cold. Daddy, Claire, come see, he shouted. They joined him in the yard, where the snowman stood proudly, with 3 scarves around its neck. One for each of us, Ethan said happily. Claire knelt down, hugging him. Perfect, she whispered, and in that moment, with snow falling softly around them, with laughter echoing through the quiet night, it felt like the world, once broken, had somehow found a way to heal. This is Heart of the Guardians, reminding you that kindness never disappears. It travels, from hand to hand, heart to heart, until one day, it comes back to you.